I still have an aggressively affectionate Astrid in my lap from the Green Farm video. In case I haven't mentioned this before, I tend to film in batches. But yes, I am back with yet another Korean transforming robot toy, of which I still have a couple after this, so it's still going to take me a bit to finish off the covering the entire collection. And this time around, it is, oddly enough, Tobot Z. I found this out like less than a month ago and was kind of shocked that they did this, but apparently Young Toys brought back Tobot X, Y, and Z in new toys. I don't entirely know, I don't at all know the story reason behind it. I don't know if it's a reboot, a refresh, if they're just like, hey, these characters are back on the show, or what. But they brought back Tobot X, Y, and Z. They have similar yet distinct styles compared to their previous iterations. And also, surprisingly, Young Toys making it apparent that for some reason, when they do a chunky red robot, particularly one with wheels that end up in the chest, they're all excellent. I don't get it. I'll take it, but I don't get it. Like, I mean, those of you who've watched this channel before and are familiar with some of my other Korean videos, Korean toy videos, you probably know how I feel about Tobot v Wild Chief. That continues to be one of my favorite standalone Korean transforming robot toys that I've ever had. And one of my favorite toys that I own, honestly. Which also a bit of a shock, but I still own Wild Chief. But yeah, I would honestly put Tobot Z maybe not exactly on par with Wild Chief for a couple of nitpicky reasons of my own choosing, my own preferences. But he is up there. He is very, very up there. I am absolutely enamored with this figure. And it had to be Tobot Z. Because, for one, as I said, chunky robots that are red and have wheels in the chest, for some reason, Young Toys just makes those particularly well for some reason. But also, used to have Tobot Adventure Z, which was a really cool figure, but I ended up getting rid of that guy a while back. And the other reason why is because I was interested in the new revisited 2023 Tobots that Young Toys is putting out, but when I looked at the videos for X, Y, and Z, both X and Y have rather unfortunate articulation limitations. Like X, from what I saw, does not have bicep or thigh swivels. Y does not have bicep swivels. And then there's Z, and Z has like the full suite of articulation for like modern figures in most cases, which is staggering for a Tobot. We'll get into it more when we get to the robot mode. But suffice to say, this revisit of Tobot Z is excellent, and I'm still doing all of this with Astrid in my lap, so this is going to continue to be awkward. Want to say hi? I think that's her way of saying hi. Okay, so this new Tobot Z, as you can tell, is no longer a like an SUV or whatever Tobot Adventure Z was. I think that was an SUV, like a puffy-looking SUV. This time around, he is a van, a somewhat puffy-looking van, and I believe Young Toys actually got licensed vehicles, because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is a Hyundai logo, which means this is most likely an approximation, a cartoonish approximation of an actual Hyundai van of some sort. I could not tell you what. I am not going to bother looking it up, but that's what I'm assuming. Also, Astrid is not on my lap anymore, thank goodness. Not that I don't love my cat, but it's a little bit easier. Now, there are some issues that I have with the van mode. Nothing major, but there are a couple of things. I'm not super fond of this hinge that just very clearly stands out on either side. I know why it's there. I don't really know how else they could have handled it. It's fine, but it is a little bit of an eyesore. It doesn't stand out too terribly. And I mean, you've got this stuff going on up here, but it is a bit of a thing. The other thing that I actually didn't notice until the other day that bothers me more than the hinge is the fact that the rear wheel is bigger than the front wheel. And I don't understand why. This may be a part of the design of the van. I'm inclined to not believe that, because why make a van with larger rear wheels than front wheels? But I'm also thinking, like, okay, they probably had to make the front wheels smaller because of the transformation, which we will see. But if that's the case, why not make the rear wheels, the same size to match, rather than make it look a little weird like this? I mean, it's not terrible. It's just something that once I noticed it, I can't unsee it. But beyond the weird tire proportions, it's a pretty solid little van. Or it's not super little, but we'll get to that. There's some nice detailing all around it. It's primarily that red and black color scheme, with like the black for the windows, the red for the rest of the van, but then you have little touches here and there, like the manufacturer logo and Tobot Z on the back in silver. And you can see some other like molded details, like the license plate bit, the door handles for the rear door, bumpers, and door handles on the side and stuff, but they're not painted. Though the detailing on the hubcaps or rims is painted, which I do appreciate. And also, it does that thing that I always prefer with vehicles, where you don't have a gas cap on this side, but you do on this side. It always kind of bugs me when they do a gas cap on both sides, or gas door, whatever this is called. You know what I mean. It always bugs me when they do like one on each side. The rear or side mirrors also do not have any paint, but that's fine. I kind of think it's neat how this little radio antenna on the back is a separate color. I don't think it is strictly necessary, but I can appreciate that that's painted. Or not painted. Not entirely sure if this is black plastic with red paint or red plastic with black paint. But then around the front, there is a little bit more detailing, like this nice silver stripe going along there. The logo, the Tobot Z license plate, the trim around the headlights. But the headlights themselves are this like black or dark gray plastic, which it's fine. I'm just so used to the headlights being like a standout color compared to a lot of what's going on in the front. These kind of feel a little dead to me. But that could also be for the sake of the robot mode. I don't really know. Or it could be accuracy. We'll just assume there's a reason for it, because of course there is. But that's one thing that's kind of like, but at least the silver trim does make the headlights stand out. And that's pretty much it for whatever new Tobot Z's van mode is. It's, like I said, just like a puffy little van, which is fine. It gets the job done. It's okay. But it will all be worth it once we get to that robot mode, because it's pretty cool. Also, the transformation is pretty cool, but getting ahead of myself now, bringing in our sizing standards. You can see that Tobot Z is definitely big when compared to more modern Transformers style toys, as is usually the case with these kinds of things. Still smaller than old school Tobot stuff, though. Which, again, I've said this before, but I'm totally fine with them downsizing a bit, because these things are still significantly larger than modern Transformers toys. And in addition to that, these smaller Tobots tend to have a lot more going on. They're more involved, usually have more articulation. It's pretty cool. Now, here we have Tobot Z with Wild Chief. Tobot V Wild Chief specifically, and they're about the same size. Though putting him next to Wild Chief does make it apparent just how, I guess, how little color separation and detailing, color-wise at least, there is on Tobot Z, whereas Wild Chief is covered in gray and silver and white detailing all over the place. Not a knock, just saying. And actually, before we jump on to the final size comparison, let's bring in Terrical here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, how Tobot Z he's not a small vehicle, but when compared to an older classic Tobot, it is small in that specific context. I'm your Terrical. And there we go. There is new Tobot Z with the duck tank. And now it is time for the transformation. But before I do the transformation for Tobot Z, I'm just, for the heck of it, I'm going to break from tradition, break from the norm for these kinds of videos, and I'm actually going to transform one of the size comparisons on camera because it's Wild Chief, and I freaking adore Wild Chief, and I feel like it's worth sharing Wild Chief's transformation with everyone again. I'm not going to walk through the steps, I'm just going to do it. But I absolutely love Wild Chief, so any excuse I have to talk about this guy again, or even just show him off, the better. Because this is a really, really spectacular figure. Like, it has been a fair bit since I took him off the shelf to transform him, but it still just kind of rolls out of me. It's a really, really clever conversion. And I cannot stress how much I absolutely adore this figure. It's such a simple but incredibly effective transformation, resulting in such a cool and surprisingly posable robot, and I love it. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can now move on to Tobot Z. So first, we are going to pop these panels out and fold them around, which is why this unsightly hinge is there. So we're going to pop that out, fold that down, and that just sits there. And same deal here, just pop that out, fold down, sit it in. Now we want to disconnect the top part of the van from the bottom, but these rear windows are actually connected to the bottom, so I find it's best to kind of pull up using this little back bit of the van. So just kind of pull up there, and that unplugs from here, and there are these little, like you can kind of see as I bring this down a bit, there are these bits here that clip in here, and there's a tab right here that sits in this little spot here. When you're bringing this back down, you kind of want to squeeze the sides here just to make sure those tabs sit in there, because the first time I transformed this guy, they ended up on the outside and things looked a little bad. But anyway, with that unclipped, bring this lower section down, and it will clip in the section right in there. That'll hold that up. Now, I'm going to split the very obvious legs, and this is kind of cool. This whole section here pushes in and actually clicks in place on both sides, and that gives him his heels, but there's also like a little bit here that you can fold out to give him a little bit more of a, like an A stance heel. And that's fine. I don't think that's strictly necessary, and I kind of feel like they probably could have had that come from this bumper bit back here. I'm pretty sure the reason they didn't was because they wanted to keep the lines for the car mode as clean as possible. That's just a theory, but I'm pretty sure that's why. But, you know, it's a thing. You don't actually have to use these, but it's there. And now, flip up these bits for the bumper, which in turn flips up the feet, and then reach under and flip out the toes. And there is, or are, the legs. Now for the upper body, I want to disconnect this section in the center here. So unplug that. And now these bits can flip up. You don't have to do it this way, but this is easier because if you leave them down, you kind of have to swing out and down. Whereas if you just flip these up a little bit, it gives you all the clearance you need. So you swing these bits around. And now this part's really cool. I really like the arm transformation here. With these bits up, these little joints here are actually on a slider. So you slide this section down or towards the front. And then you can fold this in, and it will actually kind of softly click-ish into place. And then this bit here, same deal. You push that down, which shifts it forward ever so slightly. And then you can hinge this up, and it'll also kind of solidly sit in place. And then bring the arm down. And that gives you the standard kind of Tobot Z style shoulder. But I really like how that comes together. It's like two separate sections of the top of the van that are out like this, that push up and over and bulk out the shoulder, make the familiar shape, keep that classic kind of silhouette, but also add a nice layered effect because it sits over this other window section. And I don't know, I just think that's really cool. So from there, I'm going to rotate the bicep, and then this bit here is on a double hinge, so you want to swing this up and push it up and back, and you can see the double hinge there. Swing that up, and there is it's going to be hard to show, but there's a little tab right here that tabs into the back of the hand, and that, it doesn't like clip in, but it does peg in, and that will keep this from shifting forward. So that holds that in place. And then this arm, same deal. Slide this forward, bring it in, slide this out, bring it up and in, rotate this, and then bring this up and back and peg it into the hand and bring the arm down. And there is that. Now the wheels in the front both push in at an angle to kind of slim up that chest section, a lot like Wild Chief. And lastly, actually not lastly, but you tilt the head forward, and that gives you the head. And then this isn't necessary, but he actually has these little rocket boosters on his back that you can flip out. I would like to flip them out just because it's like an extra step of the transformation, but you can leave them down if you want. And something that's really cool about these that I noticed when I was transforming them is if you forget to flip them down going into car mode, it doesn't matter, because as you bring the arm back, it naturally pushes that down. So you don't even have to transform it back going into car mode. That's just really cool. But anyway, with all of that done, here we have Tobot Z, all upgraded and new, but also familiar in robot mode. And this is a really cool robot. I like how he's nice and bulky, and he's like definitely not classic Tobot Z. There is a lot about this that is different, but he's like, it evokes the Tobot Adventure Z aesthetic, but it also does its own thing. Like I pointed out before, you've got the kind of window shoulder things going on, but it's like it's formed in a different way, and it's layered, and it's really cool. He has the Z belt buckle. The face has the mirrored Z's for the visor section, going around the visor section. He has the wheels in the torso, though for Adventure Z they were up around the shoulders, but still. It's a really cool robot design, and it still evokes the character that it's based on, while also updating it. I think that's really cool. And I just love this robot mode. It is very neat, and the colors are really nice. The color separation here is way better than what we got in the van mode, because now it's broken up more. You've got red and black, but it alternates a lot, and then you've got a lot of white in here. You've got some silver accents in a couple of different places, like the arms and the shins. You've got the gold for the belt buckle. You've got the, it's hard to see in this light, but you've got bright blue for the eyes. So yeah, it's a really nice color layout. It's a really nice breakup. It's a really cool looking robot. The proportions are a little bit short and stocky, but it's also pretty cool. It makes him look beefy and, I guess, bruisery. I don't know. I just really like this guy. I don't know what else to say. There are some new details revealed, like the detailing in the shins. There is this, let's get all this out of the way. There is some nice ridge detailing in the midsection. You've got, again, the belt and belt buckle detailing. You've got straps on his arms for some reason. Big chunky fingers. It is very cool, and I really, really like this robot mode. I was a little bit like, because a lot of the videos and stuff I was seeing of this guy had him like this, and I feel like this is fine, but I was looking at it just like, man, I really wish those tires could just go in a little bit like they did with Wild Chief, and then lo and behold, they actually do that. So yeah, it's very cool. And he even has enough, I guess, parts count left over that he has boosters on his back for some reason. And it's a pretty clean robot mode. There's a gap in his back here, which is for the sake of, you know, this mechanism flipping back in here. So I understand why it's there. It doesn't bother me, but it is there. And also the backs of the shoulders are a little bit, like, divoty. But this who cares? It is worth pointing out the biceps are waffly, and it's not just like on the inside, it's both sides are waffly, which it's fine. I think it's okay in this context because you've got this big piece of shoulder armor that covers the biceps, so you don't really see the biceps that much. It would be nice if they were more solid like the thighs or hips, but it's fine. It is totally fine. Now for the head, I'm going to try to zoom in instead of bring the figure closer because I feel like that shows it off a little bit better. But here is the head. As I said, you've got that mirror image Z for around the visor, which shows it off really nicely. And like it homages that original look. But now you've got this like almost like a I don't know, like Egyptian headdress style shape to it, this trapezoidal shape. Whereas it was much more roundy on Adventure Z. And you got this stripe going up the middle. He actually has what could pass as a face this time. I mean, he's got a mouth plate, but he's got, you know, the eyes that stand out really nicely on the black back there. I also like the color separation in the head, where you've got some black detailing on the white along with the red. So that separates things out really well. And yeah, it's a cool looking head. Now for articulation, the head can rotate left and right. You can't look down, can't tilt side to side, but you can look up for the transformation, but it's kind of ratchet. So you can kind of fudge it a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty much just for looking up. You've got 360-degree shoulder rotation. Because of the transformation, you also have a bit of a butterfly joint that honestly, I wish this was tighter. It's a little bit tighter on the right than it is on the left, but both are a little bit too loose for my liking. They stop on their own when they bump into the these bits back here, but it could be better. Also, I'm reasonably sure the ratchets on the in and out motion on the arms are not aligned. Like they both pretty much stop at 90, but they let's see. Yeah, like this seems a little off. Like I bring it out one click, and it just seems like this one sticks out a little bit further. I don't really know how else to explain it. I might be imagining things, but I kind of get that impression. As we saw, you've got bicep rotation, which is ratcheted, but it's a soft ratchet, so you can cheat it. You've got slightly under 90 degrees of elbow bend. I am curious if we get this up and out of the way. I'll actually do it this way. If we bend, nope. Okay. I wasn't sure if this shoulder armor was impeding the bicep or the elbow, but it's not. It just goes to there, and that's where it stops. So you get 2 clicks on the elbow, and again, it's soft, so you can cheat it. But that's what you've got for elbow rotation or elbow bend. You actually do get a waist joint. It is a ratcheted waist swivel that goes all the way around. Not necessary for the transformation, so they just added that on their own. It is kind of disappointing that it's ratcheted, though, because that means you can't really get subtle movements. It kind of wants to snap back. You can cheat the ratchet, but only to a certain degree. Then it snaps back. So that is a little disappointing just because they made it a little too solid for my liking. You can kick forward that far, though you do have to bring the hip out a little bit. You can kick back that far. The ratchet just doesn't want to go that extra bit. There we go. If we bring it out, you get that. You can go straight and can go out to, looks like, yeah, okay. Okay, you can go up a little bit past 90, but I wouldn't recommend it. As saw, there is a thigh swivel, and there is a knee that bends to, say, 90? Yeah, that's 90. And I also like how it looks like the knee is here, but it's actually here. So when you bend the knee, it's not quite as like, oh, he's got extremely tiny thighs as some figures. It's still, the thighs are a little small, but I think this works. And then if you wanted to, you could move this up and down, or this for like a toe, but it can't go up any further. It can't tilt. So, pretty decently posable. One other thing that's interesting about the new Tobot Z, and by extension the new X and Y, is Tobot's doing headmasters now, apparently. Pop this out and fold out a couple little arms, open this up, and rotate this around, and now you've got a little robot man. Which just zoom in rather than hold him close so you can see the face a little better. But yeah, he is a tiny little man with the Tobot Z head and the Z on the chest, and it's really cute. Not much in the way of articulation. The shoulders are on these ball joints, so you can angle the arms back if you want, and you can rotate the arms up and around. You can have them be like hugs. And because of the transformation, you can tilt the legs back, but that's all you can do with this guy, which is fine. I think it's more articulation than Headmasters and Titanmasters usually have, or maybe not more, but it's on par. But he's a cute little fellow, and I think it's kind of fun that they are doing Headmasters with Tobots. And also, as you saw, you can transform, and this is true for X and Y as well, you can transform them between robot and vehicle mode without ever doing this. You can just keep this guy plugged in at all times, and you wouldn't even know it's like a headmaster. But to put him back in, you just fold the arms back around there just to get him out of the way, and then the little grooves on the feet here plug into these little, kind of hard to see it, but there are these little pegs on this platform here. So you just put him in there, plug him in, and he will click into place. And when he clicks into place, he holds. Like, I wouldn't shake him around by holding onto the head like that, but it holds pretty well. And if you wanted to, you could leave him with that face. But if you want to change it back, it's a lot like weirdly what they do with like Masterpiece, like Movie Masterpiece and third-party stuff, where you flip this top of the head up and then rotate this around. But yeah, there you have Tobot Z, new Tobot Z, in his beefy and very cool robot mode, and I really like this. It's a very cool design. I kind of like that they did the headmaster thing, even though I'm not super into the individual headmastery thing. I still think it's cool that they did it, and I really appreciate the fact that you can just keep them attached. You don't have to take them out. They're not an accessory you can just lose because you have to take them out when transforming them. I mean, you can still lose them, but you know, they're integrated. You can keep them attached. I really like that. And now, bringing in the standards, you can see that once again, he is much bigger than a standard modern transformer. But when we bring in the other Tobots, you'll see he is smaller than classic Tobots. Still a big, chunky boy, though. And also worth noting for anyone who's watching this who might not be familiar with Tobots and Hello Carbots and other Korean transforming robot toys, the plastic on this guy feels great. He is like, I think I've said this before in other videos, where it's sort of like, almost like Tonka truck plastic. It's the kind of thing where it feels like it would take some doing to break it. Now here he is with Wild Chief. And Wild Chief is a bit taller. Just a bit. But he is chunkier. And I did go over articulation. I completely forgot that I went over articulation. When it comes to articulation, Wild Chief is better in some regards, in most regards, but it's still pretty close. Like, Wild Chief does not have a waist swivel, and his thigh rotation is limited due to the structure of this bit here in the hips. So you can only rotate his thighs that much. And coming up on the rotation, like going forward, things clash into this little bit sticking off the waist here. So the hip articulation and waist articulation is a little bit hindered compared to Tobot Z, but Wild Chief has ab crunch, like a pretty decent one, and you can also like disconnect things and really get weird with it. But he has an ab crunch, which is wild. He has the forward and backward motion. He has the in and out motion. He actually does one better than, a couple better than Tobot Z, because he has double jointed elbows. So he's got more elbow articulation, and because of the nature of the transformation, if you move these wheels out of the way, Wild Chief also has double jointed knees. So he's got more articulation than Tobot Z, but you know, there are some things he does better, some things he does better. It's a toss-up, but as I said, it's just like Young Toys, for some reason, is really good at making incredible toys when they're specifically chunky red robots with tires in the torso. I don't understand why, but I'm okay with that. I do not mind. I will gladly hang on to Tobot Z along with Wild Chief. But as I said, he is small when compared to classic Tobots. Terrical is, I don't want to say gigantic, but I mean, Terrical's a friggin' beefcake as well, so bulk isn't really an excuse in this case. So yeah, it's a pretty big difference in terms of overall size. But at the same time, Terrical's like, I'm afraid to look up how long this has been out. I want to say close to a decade old. So it stands to reason that things get a little smaller over time. Also, Terrical does not have the same level of articulation, does not have a head rotation, can't move his waist, no thigh rotation. So a little bit limited in that regard. Still love Terrical though, as you can tell, because I still have him. And of course, here those two are together because we have to. It's obligatory. And that is it for Tobot Z. I think it's just Tobot Z. I honestly don't know if there's some kind of fancy new name for this particular line or series, but this guy, as far as I know, is just Tobot Z. And this figure is incredible. As I said, wouldn't put it quite as high on my list as Wild Chief, but I'd put him very close. And it's just a really fun toy. The transformation is really cool. As I said, I love what they did with the shoulders. That is such a cool trick. And it's a very, very neat looking result. And also I really like the whole like unnecessary, but it's still their headmaster thing. But that is going to do it for Tobot Z. What do you all think of this guy, or any of the other Tobot Zs we've had over the years? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And, as I've said, toys are amazing. Just, as amazing as toys are, as much as I love toys, try to remember at the end of the day, they are still toys. So, let's not get too worked up about it.